Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I'll be going over the markets and basically what I wanted to see in price action and then what actually happened in price action. And I did not take a trade today because the markets just didn't offer me a setup and we just kind of had a really not a very favorable market, I should say. So let's get into the charts. I'm gonna try to make this a quick video, just going over what I wanted to see and of course what happened. So let's start on the daily chart. Now my drawn liquidity was these sell side liquidity relative equal lows, and then I wanted to see this weekly volume imbalance traded to. I mean, that was a long shot down here, but if we were to get animated, that was something I wanted to see. But first, these lows just back over here. Now, if we look a little bit closer, we can see that we actually have an inside candle right now. So I saw that and I was a little bit like, hey, we might actually have some consolidation considering we opened inside the candle and we haven't moved outside of this previous day candle. So because of that, we might see some consolidation, and it is Friday. We did have news today, but yeah, I'll kind of show you guys what I saw in the markets. And yes, let's go down to the 1 hour. On the 1 hour time frame, we got another new day opening gap, which is actually crazy to see considering we had one yesterday and today. I mean, usually that doesn't happen. So there's a lot of gaps in the market right now, which is not concerning, but something we can pay attention to, I guess I should say. So I had this marked up plus the consequent encroachment. I have my new day opening gaps as orange, as you can see, and my new week opening gaps as purple because colors are good. So we have the New York PM session highs over here, and then the New York AM session high, which is the high of the day yesterday, and then the lunch lows, which is also the low of the day, and then the New York PM session lows right here. So I had those marked out. Let's go, and then of course the London session relative equal lows because we have relative equal highs, sorry, right here. So let's drop down to the 15-minute chart. So we opened, we had this opening range gap from right here to here. We closed that in right away. We did trade down into this new day opening gap, which was nice to see. We came back up, dropped down after the open, closed this back in, and then we were just consolidating, finally came down, and now we're back up. So it's just been like a very consolidating day, not a lot of big movements or nice runs on liquidities, so that is just something to point out. I had my levels marked out pre-market, and you know, my true analysis was lower, but I was like, hey, we could potentially see higher pricing to go lower, but I was just more neutral in the market today, I should say. I want to point out this 15-minute fair value gap. I'll have this marked out right here, 15-minute, and then let's drop down to the 5-minute fair value gap really quick. All right, so we're on the 5-minute chart now. As you can see, I have the new week opening gap marked out. I have the opening range gap there. And of course, the consolidation we were faced with this morning. I did want to get into a trade, but I mean, just the markets and how they were acting, I was like, no, it was just not good. I'll show you kind of on the 1 minute, like if I were to trade, I would have been stopped out multiple times. So just knowing that, having those deeper retracements, knowing that I'd like to have a 5-point stop loss, knowing that if I have a 5-point stop loss, it's likely to get hit. And yes, so again, our objective was the weekly low, make a new low on Friday, and then of course the sell side liquidity on the daily time frame. However, we did eventually trade down into these New York PM session lows right here, which is nice to see. And then now we have this run higher. Again, I didn't take a trade this morning just because the markets were just not in my favor. I noticed that when we did open, we came up, we had the opening range gap, filled that in really quick. We had this 5-minute fair value gap. I wanted to draw that out. We have a nice retracement back up into it, and then we dropped lower below the new day opening gap, which was nice to see. Again, this happened at 9:45, so obviously we didn't get into the markets because we don't trade for the first 30 minutes, and our time frame to trade is 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. So seeing that, I was like, okay, like we could potentially see a down move day, like that could be good. This is good, like good force. It's just good to see that it was respecting this level and then moving lower. However, as you can see on the 5-minute chart, we didn't really have any more entries other than this one. And then even if I were to take an entry on this 5-minute fair value gap, it would have been stopped out because our stop loss is 5 points, and we obviously came up above and into this 5-minute fair value gap. So good thing we didn't take a trade. Again, I'll show you on the 1 minute what I mean, the consolidation we were facing. So, okay, we traded back up into this 5-minute fair value gap, came back down. We had this potential 1-minute fair value gap. Again, this would have been an entry at 9.50, so we didn't take it. We broke market structure here, came back down, took out sell side liquidity. I was like, okay, that could be good. Traded higher right into this 5-minute fair value gap. I didn't like that we traded into this 5-minute fair value gap and stayed there. So I wasn't interested in going long just because we didn't break through the 5-minute fair value gap and we stayed inside. So when we come back down into this 1-minute fair value gap, we didn't take the entry for the buy, which again is probably a good thing considering it would have hit our 5-point stop loss before reaching our higher targets. Again, came back in. We did have this wick right here, but we closed inside the 5-minute fair value gap, so I was like, I do like how we traded into the 15-minute fair value gap. However, come back down. We did come back up into this 1-minute fair value gap, which is actually nice to see considering we had another fair value gap right here. But I just don't like this like consolidation movement, especially since we went lower to go higher, took out these highs again. We didn't have that break in structure, but seeing these relative equal lows could have been a potential shorting opportunity just to get into those lows. However, I don't really like this price movement in general. Now, we did trade into this 1-minute fair value gap a couple of times. See how we just 1, 2, and 3 before ultimately moving lower into our sell side objectives. So yes, I could have entered a trade here with the higher time frame analysis of the 15-minute fair value gap, came back into this 5-minute fair value gap, couldn't close in, and then we ultimately could have traded on this 1-minute fair value gap right here for a shorting opportunity. And this would have been a good opportunity because our stop loss is above this consequent encroachment of the wick, and our ultimate goal is these New York PM session lows. So we could have had a nice shorting opportunity there. However, just because the way the market was moving, I wasn't necessarily interested in getting in, and since it was like a high resistant liquidity run, I really love those runs where it's like we enter into the fair value gap and then boom, right away down into target. We have a trending market. We know exactly like where the drawn liquidity is. I just didn't see that today. And then just to top it off with like the movements and just like seeing how my trades would have played out, how they would have hit stop loss, I wasn't necessarily trusting in this trade. Because of that, we didn't take the trade to go lower. I saw we took this out. We could have potentially made a trade to go higher in here. It didn't actually offer us until right here, but just from this historical movement, again, we were like consolidating around this consequent encroachment of the new day opening gap. So we see that happen here. and I was just not interested in taking a trade this morning, and it just didn't seem very fitting. And I was like, you know, there's better days to trade. Yes, it sucks that we didn't get in a trade, but at least we didn't take a loss, you know? So knowing this and seeing how the market unfolded, I am not upset that we didn't get into a trade. And I'm happy that we just kind of stayed on the sidelines and watched, because this was just not the best price action to be entering in for me. Maybe this is something you guys saw right away and you're like, oh my gosh, like I saw that trade right away, or you took a trade off that 15-minute fair value gap down to the lows, which was awesome, you know, like that is totally a thing. I like to trade on the 1 minute, of course, as you know, so I was looking for the opportunities. But I mean, it's Friday. We had news this morning, but the news just kind of made more of a mess than anything. So yeah, I didn't take a trade this morning, but it was nice to see us come down into those New York PM session lows and then trade higher. And eventually we could probably take out these highs. And then if we were gonna go higher, I did have these marked out here, the London session highs, the relative equal highs, New York PM session highs, and then we never closed in this new day opening gap. So like the upper quadrant of this new day opening gap could be a potential draw in liquidity next week, or if we get animated in the afternoon. I mean, it's kind of just up in the air right now, but this morning's session was just not it for me. So yeah, they're not all gonna be great days, right? Anyways, that is it for me. I hope you guys kind of seen a little bit on why I didn't take a trade this morning, and essentially just kind of saving it to trade the next day. You know, I don't want to get into anything that's going to cause me a headache. So I think sitting this one out was the best thing I could have done personally, and I'm not upset with it. And now we have, basically we're at break even on our Top Step account. So going into next week, we have like a clean slate. You know, there's going to be multiple trades next week. Next week is going to be crazy though, because it's NFP week. So we'll see if we actually take a trade next week, but it's just cool to see that the market still went down into our New York session PM lows. And just seeing how we traded around the new day opening gap, having that consolidation, knowing when to not trade is also important in trading. So I hope you guys like this video. Let me know in the comments if it helped you, and yes, I will see you all Monday for sure. Maybe we'll do a pre-week market video, but if you want that, let me know in the comments, and I will see you all Monday. Bye. See you guys. Have a good weekend.